Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer and listener, welcome to another exciting episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We do our best to bring you life-changing information, something that will inspire you, that will impact you in a positive way, entrepreneurially speaking. And today we do have an entrepreneur of note who happens to be an attorney as well. And I think it's going to be fun. But before we get started, please do me a small little favor. Strike that subscribe button. We need your support. We need you guys to be part of the team so that when the video drops, every video drops, you are able to take a quick look. You'll be taking actually a first row seat, as it were, front row seat. Thank you so much and welcome, sir.
Thank you, Senior Counsel.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Would you be kind enough to tell them who you are and share a little bit of your CV?
Oh, okay. Thank you about that. My name is Moagi Moloi. I'm a lead attorney at Moloi And Company. It's a small boutique, future-focused law firm based in Gaborone. Basically, what we specialize in projects and construction, insurance law, commercial law, civil and corporate litigation, employment relations, as well as do pro bono work. Mm-hmm. The face behind the firm is Moagi Moloi. I'm a young man from Tutume, north of Francistown. I grew up in Francistown and I studied in Francistown, went for college in Cape Town at Abos College, completed my matric, then did my LLB degree in Port Elizabeth, completed in 2009 in December, came back to Botswana, where I tried my hand in business. I was working for a trucking company. I was a truck assistant. Eventually, after 6 months, I got an internship role at the Office of the Attorney General under the DPP department. I worked there for 4 years before I went corporate. I joined BIHL Insurance Company, and I was heading the Palape and Pigwe office. Mm-hmm. I worked there for 2 years before I was headhunted by Minchin and Kelly, where I joined their civil and corporate litigation department. But when I arrived at Minchin and Kelly, I found a department that was in the red, which was Dept Collection, of which I took over that and revolutionized it and started what we now call financial recoveries. Basically what I did, I fused what call centers do in terms of collection and fused that with a law firm. Psychologically on the data, the model worked and the model is doing very, very well. I did that in my first year at Minchin and Kelly, then went to civil and corporate litigation. I was John Griffith's last pupil. Mm-hmm. He loves saying that. He trained me for a good 3 years. After 4 years at Minchin and Kelly, that's when I went and set up my own practice, where I'm currently at.
I don't know whether you know this, but I worked for Minchin and Kelly for 4 years. The 1 year I took sabbatical to go and do a master's degree. Are you aware of this?
Yes, we share the same people, master. Like I said, I was his last pupil.
I was under Dave Williams, the late Dave Williams, but also working with John Griffiths.
Yes, yes, he did.
I don't want to date myself, but it's quite a while back.
I remember actually a funny story that John used to tell me a lot. Apparently they started engaging you while you're still at university, and when you completed, they asked you how much you wanted, and you said all you wanted was enough to afford to buy a brand new Mercedes-Benz. So John liked telling me the story over and over.
Yes. I think as lawyers we want to because we tend to travel long distances.
Yes, we
My
do.
attitude has always been that when it comes to your safety, you cannot compromise. In as much as I tell a lot of people that, look for a cheap car when you are getting started.
Yes.
But if you're a lawyer who is a litigant who travels across the country, as I did, I thought it was important to get a safe, reliable car, and those are not cheap.
That's very true. I actually spend most of my time in my car than in my office. Yes. So I do agree.
So
Yes.
there is an exception. You
Yes.
do also have some international experience. Can you talk about that?
Yes, while working under Mason and Kelly, they belong to a Swiss variant company called DLA Piper. It's one of the top 5 biggest law firm in the world. So while working for Mason and Kelly, I did a lot of cross-border cases and transactions. I got to work with my colleagues across Africa, from South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, Tunisia, Senegal. Whenever there was an issue which had an insurance element into, they will always engage me, and I'll help on that aspect. Beyond my professional qualification, I also train lawyers through a program called Justice Advocacy Africa. What we do, we annually train lawyers across Botswana, Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda. What happened is that the program in Botswana is spearheaded by the Law Society of Botswana. They trained me in 2012, April. By November, they invited me to come train as a trainer. I was trained by the National Institute of Trial Advocacy. They're based in Seattle, in United States of America. They trained me as a trainer, and I've been training lawyers across Africa ever since then. The next one is coming up in November, Botswana, the one in Botswana, November 21 till the 29th. I believe your employees are coming.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes,
that'd be great.
You must make them sign up for it, because it's very enlightening, and it's very insightful in terms of how new entrants into the market, into the legal profession, can present their cases better in court, because what you focus on is on the advocacy skills.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Would you say the practice of law is a science or it's an art?
I think it's a fusion of both. It's a social science. It is a social science. It's a fusion of both, because the scientific part, I think, comes in from the technical aspects. That's the know-how that we have. The art part of it, it's how you are able to articulate that technical skill that you have to each and every person who is not a lawyer, in a way that they can understand you. Yes, sir.
And one of your areas of practice is finance.
Banking and finance,
and
yes.
banking. I did my international masters, my LLM.
Yes, sir.
On international trade law and banking law.
Yes, sir.
So I've always understood the importance of this. But what do you say to people who say that look, it's not important when you're in the world of finance to, for instance, I know some people who do deals without even involving lawyers. How central important is banking and finance to law and vice versa? Okay.
Before answering your question, I did a certificate in investments. This before I got my LLB degree. This is in 2008 when I was still in university. It was a program offered by Stanley being Standard Bank and Liberty Life. And from what I've learned from then, as far as then, is that each and every transaction that you embark on that has money, that has more than 2 parties to it, you need a lawyer from the onset. What I realized...
An experienced lawyer or a relevant lawyer, not just any lawyer.
Not just any lawyer. Definitely not a criminal lawyer. Yes. What I've experienced so far in practice is that most Botswana, most entrepreneurs, most business people, they don't engage lawyers from the onset. Only when, for lack of a better way, when she says he's the fan, that's when they think of a lawyer. But I always advise my clients, my friends, that before you sit around the table, before you structure any deal, before you think of merging with any other company, before you think of acquiring any company, get your lawyer involved.
Yeah.
Because with a lawyer, everything becomes seamless, because we tend to be the link between the finance guys, the link between the investment guys, the link between the bankers, the link between the companies. We seem to make them function. Without us, most of the deals, it's either the deals are not done properly or the deals are not beneficial to all the partners.
Can you give a specific example from your experience to illustrate this point without mentioning names?
Yes, I remember I once dealt with an issue. This issue involved foreign investors. These guys were from Luxembourg, France. They wanted to set up a tourism chartering company in Mau, but they were getting finance from an international bank, which had to deal with the local bank here. So and the other investors were from South Africa, and they had a local guy here. So there's a fusion of 3 countries so far in terms of the nationality of the partners. There's Luxembourg, there's South Africa, there's Botswana. Beyond that, there's a bank involved from France, there's a bank involved locally, and there's a bank involved from South Africa. So far, we're dealing with 6 parties. And these guys from the onset, while they were negotiating, they didn't engage lawyers. They used the lawyers that came with the banks. But it got to a point whereby when they were about to finalize the deal, they couldn't fuse the laws to make it compatible. The laws from France, the laws from SA, and the laws from Botswana. And when they engaged me, they had to pay a lot. As compared to, had they engaged me from the onset, everything could have been seamless. Because we lawyers know how to navigate and knit the laws, especially international laws.
And you also have colleagues in this.
Yes, I have.
In these areas to help you synchronize things.
Yes, I have been fortunate enough to be around people who have seen potential in me. I belong to an alliance called Cross Border Alliance. It's an international alliance of associates. What we focus on, they focus on cross-border transactions. These are mostly mergers and acquisitions. Our headquarters is in Germany. We have associates across 54 countries in the world, me being the one in Botswana. So it usually helps when you're dealing with those international transactions, because it's just a matter of me picking up the phone. Hi, John. Hi, Gerald. Help me with this and this, and it becomes easy.
One of your key projects is your involvement with the Shakawe Bridge.
Yes.
If it's not in breach of any confidentiality, are you willing to share what your involvement was?
I can't go into detail, but the law that I'm allowed to share is that the project was done by a joint venture. It's a joint venture of 2 Italian companies, Itinera and Moloi. I assisted them in terms of acclimatizing them to the local laws and how to navigate that. And it was a success. The project is almost complete. It's within the handing over period. And over the existence of the project, they haven't had any legal problems because I was always there present and making sure that everything is done accordingly. Before then, I dealt with the Kazungula one, which involved a Korean company, which involved a Chinese company, China Jingzhu, and the works were done in 3 countries when it started. It was Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. And I had to make sure that in everything that they do, there's compliance with the local laws of Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. And beyond that, I had to make sure that those 3 international companies work together and seem to have a common working ground, because laws in Korea are different from laws in China, and laws in China are different from laws in Botswana. But as a lawyer, you have to make sure that those partners work seamlessly according to a law that they agree to.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Treating a law firm as a business,
yes,
or approaching it from an entrepreneurial angle,
yes,
that's something that a lot of lawyers don't do. What is your take on this phenomenon, and how can we address it?
I've been fortunate enough to work for a corporate entity which was profit driven. I worked for BIHL for 2 years, and during my experience there, my MD by then was Mr. Mike Dube, a man I'm very grateful for. He's from a finance background, and Mr. Mike Dube At first, we always fought because he always said, I look at things from a legal perspective. He looks at things from numbers. Yes.
Business.
From the business side. So working with Mr. Mike Dube, I ended up finding a common thread between law and business. And by the end of it, I knew that as much as I have a duty to purvey justice, at the end of the day, I have to make a living out of it. So I'll say, as lawyers, yes, we need to embark on a business journey in terms of learning and getting experience, or even if you don't have the experience, if you don't know the know-how, get the right people to come help you. Because you don't only need lawyers to run a law firm. It's actually
Is it not a function of the historical background where we're not supposed to tout, we're supposed to be rendering a service? Historically, lawyers were not even supposed to see themselves as a business.
Fair enough. It was seen as, it's regarded as one of the oldest profession.
A noble profession.
Noble profession, yes. So in the olden days, yes, that's how it was. But as much as it was like that, I have been exposed to firms that have been in existence since for more than 100 years. There's ENS. Oh, by the way, when I was still in university, Workmen's, after my second year, they headhunted me, they approached me. They had this program whereby they took the top achievers from our school.
Sort of the top firms in SA.
Yes, I turned it down.
Worksmen's.
I turned it down.
Wow, you turned it down, okay.
Yes, during my second year. But before then, I could intern in the offices. And like I said, this is a law firm that has been there for more than 100 years. As much as you say that back then there was no touting and advertising and marketing like that. But what I realized that there is a culture of business in the sense that you are given targets that in a day, the minimum that you should do is 7 billable hours. And
you must account for them.
Yes, and you actually account, the moment you walk into the office, you account for each and every minute that you've been in the office till you knock off. It can be either you are doing, even if you're not doing research or you're doing administrative work, we had what you call comfort breaks. That's when you go to the bathroom. You actually had to detail that I had a comfort break. So you detail for each and every minute that you spend there. And that grew in me that even though I'm a lawyer, I have to purvey justice. I still have to account for the numbers that I spend dispensing the justice.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Why do you think also that lawyers sometimes become the butt of all jokes and they are perceived as being very arrogant and expensive? That unfortunately is what the public perceives the lawyers until the time they need a lawyer.
I can say in my 12 years of being in practice in Botswana, I studied in SA. When I came into the market, that was around 2010. The local professionals, even new senior counsels, they were not receptive of us guys who studied abroad because they felt that
you're eating into our turf.
Yes, the law that we studied in SA is different from the law that has been practiced in Botswana. But funny enough, most of our laws is Roman Dutch law. So
I never had that impression, by the way.
Yes, I didn't specifically mention you. So to answer your question, the perception that we have as a society in Botswana is that there's no critical legal education. When I was studying jurisprudence in South Africa, there is a program that they call critical legal education. The purpose of that module was that as much as we are lawyers, we have a duty to inform the public about what we do as lawyers, as compared to the old traditional lawyers who write a letter that even some lawyers cannot understand. So they were much more inclined to us as lawyers being able to articulate ourselves in a way that a normal person can do. There's what you call strict law in South Africa. We actually intending on bringing that into Botswana, whereby all we do is that we just go to the public, we go to the community and just spread the knowledge about the law and how it works. And I believe by us doing that, eventually we will make sure that the lawyers are not the butt of the jokes. People actually understand what lawyering is, what we do, and how we do it. Because I believe that those myths that people have out there are based on misconception. And it's a duty upon us lawyers to educate the public about what we do and how we do it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there are too many jokes about lawyers. I think of all the professions, if you go on the internet, there are just too many.
We're the butt of jokes.
Yeah.
We give doctors competition.
One area you're very active in is the area of insolvency and corporate rescue.
Yes, sir.
Can you share a little bit on that?
Insolvency and business rescue is actually for the benefit of each and every person out there. Company whereby you want to put them in a position whereby they become a profitable business. So like for the past 2 years, there has been COVID and stuff like that. So let me say you're a retail shop during COVID. Your shop has been closed. You're not trading. You're not bringing in any income, but you love the business. You want the business to carry on. That's why I come in. I look at your books. I look at your setups, and I look at your structures, and try advise ways that you can run your business in a way that it will be able to survive that period and eventually come back to life. So that's the company rescue that I do. Insolvency is whereby a company's liabilities are more than their assets. And for a lack of a better word, maybe you want to protect the shareholders, maybe you want to protect the directors. There are ways that I can assist those people in a way like it's legal and it's not as damaging as when you just leave the company dying and everyone just strips it. Yes.
All right. Can you just illustrate with a clear example, not mentioning names, of where you effected a business rescue without necessarily mentioning anybody's name?
I'll use my friends. Use my friends. None of them can do anything to me.
Yeah.
I have a friend who relocated to Botswana in 2008. He's from South Africa. He started when he came down here. He started a knitting company, a knitting factory. He was doing school uniforms and supplying school uniforms here in Botswana. But the model that he had when the business was going down was that he will get the orders and everything is done across the border, not in Botswana. So when I came in, I looked at the business model, I looked at the employees that he had, and I suggested to him that it's best you set up the factory down here in Botswana. Moreover, that I suggested that instead of having employees, have those people as independent contractors, because as a business, it's cheaper for you to have them as independent contractors as compared to when they're employees, because as independent contractors, you only call them when you have work. When you don't have work, they are free to go look for work elsewhere. Yeah. As compared to when you have an employee on your overheads that you pay on a monthly basis, you have to use them once in a while. I gave him that model, adopted the model. He's now across all over SADC. So that's one instance that I can say that I helped a friend.
Wow.
And it was pro bono, because he's a friend of mine.
I'm sure he does. He does thank you from time to time.
Yeah, once in a while I get T-shirts. Yes.
And then you are active in My Property, which is the property arena.
Yes, sir.
And you have an association with Warona.
Yes.
Who are advertising very heavily on social media. Tell us about the association in Warona and your involvement in the property area.
Okay. I studied in South Africa, like I said, so I'm not an admitted conveyancer or notary public in Botswana. My passion lies with the litigation and the civil and corporate side. And Warona Law Office it's a top emerging law firm that focuses mostly on property, and I've worked with her before, and it got to a point where I realized that all the clients that I service, they still have to be catered for in terms of their property and everything. And I was not in a position whereby I can expand enough to cater for that. Like they say, collaboration is the new winning. So I looked around and I saw Warona Law Office. I approached her. Let's have a working relationship, and we have been working very, very well. with them.
So she refers clients in other areas, you refer the property, yes?
Yes, we synchronize our expertise. Where she's lacking, I'm there. Where I'm lacking, she's there. Okay. And she has been in the industry for over 12 years now. She has done a lot of big transactions, even in the CBD area, big transaction in the Kasani, in the tourism industry, and she's well versed in that area. Yes.
You'd hinted a little bit on this area of financial recoveries, which in the old days was called debt collection.
Debt collection, yes.
Is it just a fancy word, or there's a different meaning?
It's not a fancy word. There's a different meaning. Debt collection is what nowadays the new age lawyers, we call it the hard collections, whereby, let me say, Mogobe incorporated his own owed $1 million by Moloi and Company. What do? You go to a law firm. The law firm drafts a letter of demand, 7-day lapses, I don't pay. They go to court, issue a summons, go through 2, 3, 4 years of litigation, you get your order. By then, Moloi and Company has stripped and hidden all its assets. That's the hard collection. And then there's what you call the soft collections, what normal debt collectors have been doing, non-lawyers debt collectors have been doing for years in the market, whereby, let me say, a retail company, let's say Pep Stores is owed, they will take that book to a few companies around, there's Norman Bisset, they'll take it to the call center, and the call center will try to call those people and try to collect. So what I did with financial recovery is I took those two models, the soft and the hard, and I fused. So from a law firm perspective, psychologically, when you have a debt and the first person who calls you is not a call center, it's someone from Moloi and Company. We are a law firm based in Gaborone. We are calling you with respect to this debt that you have, and we want to help you. We want to help you. Psychologically, we tell them we want to help you be in a better position. Eventually, that person starts paying 1 pula, 2 pula, 3 pula. Eventually, they get into the habit of paying. What do? You collect, but you haven't done the hard way, which on the client...
The result is still the same.
The result is still the same, but it's even cost-effective to the client. They don't pay you for the legal costs and stuff like that. Even
you just claim what? Collection commission?
You claim collection commission. Even beyond that, you find that there are instances whereby when you're still using soft collection method, people don't comply. You still go the hard collection route, but you still maintain the soft collections. There's a soft collection software that I've identified is all over the country now. It's automated in the sense that on a regular basis, it communicates with the data. Even if we are instituting processes, everything you do, it notifies them.
Not to steal your thunder or anything, I established something like that in 08. And I had a young lady who's now a very prominent attorney, who's Mrs. Gondwe.
Precious, yes.
Precious. She was Precious Masuku then.
Yes.
She was in charge of, we called it a call center, debt collection call center.
Yes.
And we applied what you're saying.
Yes.
Just so you know that we...
Clearly I'm walking in the right path.
It's very, very effective.
Yes.
We closed ours down when I shifted to other things, but I think from what you said, maybe we need to revive it. Okay.
Yes.
Now,
maybe just to mention this as well, I have collaborated with one of the top collectors in South Africa. He's called what's his name? Courtney Bam. What's his name? I forgot the name of the company. Let me just confirm that right now.
It'd be too embarrassing not to mention the name.
Because I know him on first name basis. Sometimes I forget which company he works for. But he's been concept recoveries. He's been performing very, very well in the collection space in South Africa. He has been actually for the past 3 years African Legal Awards. He's been getting awards as one of the best collectors. So when I started this model in Botswana, he was still working as well that side. And he came and gave me support and we did everything. Now we have established our own thing. He's running his collection agency in South Africa. I'm running my law firm. So I don't have the capacity as yet. So all the debt collection, the financial recoveries books that I get, I take them to Midrand. But we also so all the calling and stuff is done from that.
So you have, as it were, subcontracted that aspect to him.
Yes, we sort of like partnered. Yes.
So you get somebody speaking with a Pedi accent there, demanding payment.
The Botswana who speaks Botswana fluently, just like Botswana from here.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
And he has the technical know-how of running the software. He was actually part of the software team that developed the software that it's been winning an award globally. Yes, called Excalibur. Yes.
What is so unique about it? What does it do?
Excalibur is a collection software that is automated in the sense that it sends timely messages. It sends timely. It can do a letter of demand. It can draft someone's. It does basically replaces. It's an artificial intelligence form of a lawyer. Yes, but you have to program it to do that. Beyond that is based. It's web based. The calls are web based as well. You don't have to be paying BTC and stuff like that. You don't have to be having a physical office. You can do it from anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Basically, what India is doing for the world.
Okay.
Yes.
This is wonderful.
Yes, sir.
And how can Moloi and Company assist in that regard?
We are the contact point. We are the contact point. If you are struggling with your debt book, you can bring that to us here, our office at the showgrounds, and we'll take over.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
One of the issues that you and I want to talk about is the issue of diversity.
Yes.
How does it apply in the context of your firm and in Botswana?
I deal with people from different areas, different perspective in terms of business. And more often than not, I found myself intrigued. And I found myself investing in different areas. Yes.
And you do have...
I do invest in my clients, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about Moloi and Company in terms of its philosophy and what sets it apart from, say, other law firms. What would you say puts you heads and shoulders above?
Our values as a firm, we thrive to be trustworthy. We trust to be frank and fearless. We are driven, we are dedicated, we are daring. Beyond that, our intellectual rigor sets us apart from each and every law firm out there, because we do invest our time in learning the craft that we find ourselves in.
And of course, the legal education that you offer.
Yes.
I think that is something unique.
Yes, and beyond that, I was fortunate enough to do what we now call IT law. But then when I did it, it was called cyber law. So I believe I'm ahead of my peers when it comes in terms of the IT space, because I learned about the laws from years back. So when Botswana caught up on the IT wave in terms of bringing the laws, your data protections act and stuff like that, it's something that I already knew about. And in that space, I can say that I was already ahead.
One of your practice areas is one that fascinates me, because we're into development as Mogobe Incorporated, the area of construction, construction law. What are you offering there, and what experiences can you share?
Yes, my practice area is actually quite broad. It's projects and construction. From projects, most people confuse the two. Projects is your big, like when you're building this place. I wouldn't say that was a construction deal. That is what you call a project. And then there's construction. Construction is whereby you build. But project is from the day that you decide what I'm going to build this building.
So it's like project management.
Yes. What do? You look for investors, you look for funders, you get investors on board, you get the money. And so project is from A to the end. And construction is part of projects where they actually do the works of building. So I have been fortunate enough to work on one of the biggest projects in Botswana. When the first tower was being built, I dealt with that. the two bridges that you have already mentioned, a couple of buildings here, Zambezi, I was part of that project. And in the mining sector, in the mining space, Cut 6, Cut 7, and Cut 8, I dealt with that. Karowe, before it was Lukara, all the history of Karowe and the extraction started, I was part of that project. In terms of construction companies, I do help construction companies as well in that disputes, in the tendering space. I was counsel for PPADB for almost 3 years while I was still at Mission in Kelly. So I dealt with a lot of construction related disputes. Yes, sir.
What did you do at iTowers? What was your involvement?
I was much more from the contracts that they used at the iTowers. They were using the JBCC. And
what's that?
The JBC is the Johannesburg Building Construction Contract. It's a form of contract that is used by guys in the construction industry. It involves what you call the employer, and the employer is the person actually who goes out looking for companies to engage. Then there's the contractor. But beyond that, the contractor engages what you call subcontractors. And the JBCC is designed in a way that these three contracts are in union. So when at the iTowers, I was dealing mostly with the subcontractors. This is the guys who are doing the electrical works, the civil structure, the mechanical works, the fittings of the interior architects. Those are my clients. Yes.
And your job is to make sure that there are watertight agreements.
There are watertight agreements, even beyond that, as the project, because the project are time sensitive, in the sense that everything is specified within this period. You have to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I was sort of like a project manager. I was the guy who was always telling these guys that you have to do this by this date. You have to do this by this date. Because if you fail to do that as a subcontractor, there are penalties.
And penalties can be severe.
They can be severe to an extent that you find yourself that you have done work and you actually owe the contractor instead of him paying for the work that you have done.
All right. I always ask you for illustrations. Can you give an example where, as a lawyer, you did see this, where failure to adhere to time deadlines can be devastating for the contractor?
I want to talk about the iTowers one because it's still under arbitration even today.
Yeah.
There was one. This was a drilling company. It had been engaged by the company which was doing the Cat 7 project, which was engaged by Dept. So this guy came on site, and it happened that it rained. He was responsible for drilling one of the holes. I don't know, whatever they do, removing sand and stuff like that. So it rained, and for 7 days they couldn't drill because it was waterlogged. Unfortunately, this guy did not inform. They were using a FIDIC contract. He did not inform the other parties in terms of the FIDIC contract.
FIDIC yellow book, or
they were using the
red book.
The red book.
Yeah.
They were using the red book. So when the project was complete, all the payment, the certificates were paid. There were 19 payment certificates. All the 7. When you got to 16, the employer was like, "Nah, the rest will pay you after you complete the project." So he ran with the project. Upon completion, he did his invoices and everything. He gave it to the employer. Then the employer was like, no. Remember that for 7 days you did not work. And actually now he got a bill which was more than the assets that he had on site. So he had to pay them. And by the time he engaged me, it was too late. There was nothing that he could do because he was not in compliance. And he lost around 12 to 13 million because of that 7 days.
Wow.
And because he did not notify them in terms of the FIDIC contract. Yes.
People heard us saying yellow book and red book. Can you explain the FIDIC yellow and the FIDIC red?
Yes. Basically, when you're doing projects, you have to look at the type of the work that you want to do and how you want to achieve it. So there are two different kinds. There is the yellow book and there is the red book. Yes. But it depends on the work that you want to partake on. If it's a work that you are time conscious about, I'll recommend that you go for the yellow book. But if it's a work that you are well versed in and you are much more concerned about the workmanship and the output, I'll recommend that you go for the red book. But when you go for the red book, know that you are going to tell the contractor what to do, how to do it, when to do it. So you need to get your team on site at all time. In terms of, let me say, if it's a building, you have to get civil engineers, you have to get quantity surveyors, you have to get your own, because you have to detail each and everything. You basically micromanage your employee,
project,
as compared to the yellow book, whereby it's much mostly about the time. You just tell him, but I want you to build a building and build that building within 2 months. How he does it, you're not involved. Just keep on inspecting. Yes, sir.
I know from my own experience that everything has to be documented.
Yes.
Could you just share with our viewers just how dangerous it is not to document things and why this is so important?
We live in a very fast-paced space, and a lot of things happen, and a lot of things happen quickly. But what I always emphasize to anyone who's willing to listen is that document. If all is a telephone conversation, immediately after you hang up, follow up that person over email. Mr. Mogobe, as per our telephone conversation, we agreed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Because if you don't put it in writing, as much as the court allows such verbal agreements to be enforced, it's easier when it's in writing. So it's always advisable to document, put it in writing, document it, store it, at least for 10 years. Yes.
So companies have gone bankrupt because of that oversight.
Yes. A lot of, then it fuses into one of the areas that I have keen interest in, which is corporate governance. Corporate governance stems from what we call the King's Report. Basically, it's a model that has now been adopted globally. It replaces the Cadbury project, which focuses on best practices for corporate entities. So in terms of corporate governance, the ways that companies should run, it's a model that can be applied to any company from any industry. Even law firms can adopt that, real estate companies can adopt that, social clubs can adopt that, because corporate governance speaks about documentation of documents, having policies in place, being transparent in everything you do, doing everything according to the books and stuff like that. And it's one of the areas that I have keen interest in, and I've been training companies on the King's way of doing business.
Wow.
Yes.
That is highly impressive. But that is a huge and specialized area in of itself.
Yes,
so do you undergo special training for it?
I was fortunate enough, when I was doing my second year, I started working for the university, Nelson Mandela University. I was working as a student assistant. There was one particular lecturer, Professor Lindy Kutsi. She was a business law lecturer, and she happened to be one of the research assistants for the third King's Report. Now they're on 8, when the third one was being formulated. And because I was a student, she always sent me to do the running around and research and everything. And with that, I grew. The corporate governance in me grew as they finessed the report. Because, like I said, by then it was on the third iteration, the third version. Yes, now they're on the 8th one. So I have been. It grew in me, and during experience, I could see the disadvantages of not having corporate governance. You remember that scandal about Barclays?
Yes.
Before it went down, it was because of them not having corporate governance principles in place. And we can go as far back as Exxon, we can go to even bigger companies.
WorldCom,
A lot of companies have actually went under because of the lack of adherence to corporate governance. So I can say experience has been my best teacher. Yes.
Wow, that's fascinating stuff.
Yes.
You do touch also on intellectual property.
Yes.
What's your expertise there, and what cases have you had there?
Okay. I have grown interest into the digital marketing space. My partner is from that background, so I have actually fell in love with the industry, and I have been learning through online courses. There's one school called Udemy. They offer free courses, so I have been taking Udemy. I have been taking classes on that, and to bring it to scale it to the market right here, we have a lot of designers who are exploited by companies. Companies go out there looking for the creatives, looking for designers, and they'll say, give us a proposal. Designers will do a proposal and give it to a corporate entity. The corporate entity goes quiet, staying down the line, they're using that designer's product without even compensating him for the works. So I realized that a lot of corporate entities were exploiting these designers. So what I did, I reached out to a lot of designers, and I'm currently involved in one dispute with one of the biggest telecommunication, one of the biggest communication.
We won't mention the name.
Yes, in Botswana, whereupon they had used a designer's works, and beyond using it, distributed it to third parties who actually...
In a tender?
Yes, we actually...
that's modus operandi. It's terrible.
Economically benefited for it, and they couldn't compensate the designer for creating that design. So I found that there's a gap in terms of how business done.
But had the designer registered the necessary IP at SIPA?
No, the IP wasn't registered, but at the end of the day, in terms of the common law, it's his creation. He is the author and the originator of that product. And he did it at the request and the behest of the company, solely for the benefit of the company. They had promised him that they will engage him, after they engage him, they will pay him. So they took the idea, took the product, used it as the guideline to the tender, did a tendering process, distributed it to other companies to actually do the product. And yet,
can you explain to the viewer why that constitutes IP theft, so to speak?
It's intellectual property infringement, because everything that you put your mind to it and you make and create, which is specific to you, your handwriting. Your handwriting is your handwriting. No one can use your handwriting without your consent. So we find people, but if you are an employee, let me say you're an employee of Mogobe and you do those works under Mogobe, automatically that belongs to Mogobe. But whereby Mogobe goes out and engages someone in the streets who is not an employee for Mogobe, and that person actually uses his intellectual capabilities and does a product. It can either be a drawing, it can either be a design, it can either be a book, it can either be music, it can either be...
It's a work of art.
Work of art, yes. And Mogobe doesn't compensate that person for that and actually uses it to benefit economically. Then Mr. Mogobe has infringed that person's intellectual property. Yes.
Now, you mentioned that even where it's not registered with SIPA, you are protected. Does the Act say so?
The Act is not specific as to that, but the common law of intellectual property actually recognizes that each and every creation.
But hasn't this country signed up to conventions which offer some protection?
We are a covenant of WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization. We have signed to that covenant, and WIPO does actually recognize common law intellectual property.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So in fact, you can successfully sue here and win.
Yes.
Okay.
But I always advise creatives out there, protect your work. It's actually almost free. You don't need a lawyer actually to protect your ideas.
Okay.
You can easily go to SIPA and register your ideas and your designs. And if you are engaging corporates, have them sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, in the sense that as much as you are looking for work, your work stays with them. They can use it without your consent and stuff like that.
All right. So I'm going to ambush you with your question about the recent noise that we've been hearing about the judiciary, that there's turmoil, there's interference in the judiciary. From where you are standing, is there any substance to these allegations that seem to be emerging in every newspaper? Is our judiciary gone to, has it been captured? What's going on?
I'll use my experience. My experience is always my teacher. When I started practicing, the bench had the likes of Justice Newman, Justice Kebi, Justice Lesetedi, Lehuaila, Justice Chinengo, Justice Pumapi. I used to love going to court by then, as compared to now. I think that answers your questions.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're not going to go further?
I'm not going to go further.
Because it might get you into trouble.
Yeah. Not necessarily I might get into trouble. I don't go to court as often as I used to.
Yeah.
But the little interactions that I have with court are not as good as the good old days.
Okay.
Yes. Whereby you had, as a lawyer, actually you had to prepare. You couldn't walk into court like the way I see the youngsters doing today, whereby you walk into court and you
just wing it.
You are very clueless, because the judges will actually make sure that you do your work. But nowadays
it's not quite like that.
It's not like that. Yes.
Is it because some of the judges have not had the advantage of practicing themselves?
Even then, we used to have judges who had not practiced in their lifetime. And they actually wrote judgments which were reported in Safli. There's like a Southern Africa reporting journal. If you go into Safli right now, the last case that has been reported from Botswana, I think, is from 2008. And I believe that calls.
That says a lot.
That says a lot. Yeah, that says a lot about the state of the judiciary in Botswana.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is the Law Society not doing enough to address this, or is it doing anything at all?
As an active member of the Law Society, we can do as much. But remember that the Law Society of Botswana, its main client is us as lawyers. Not judges are not. As much as they're lawyers, they're not members of the Law Society. The Law Society mostly focus on the interest of the lawyers. But beyond that, we have a duty to be sort of like a watchdog of the three arms of government. And the Law Society, they have been trying.
Yeah.
They have been trying in terms of they've been trying to engage the government in terms of the composition of the Judicial Services Commission. They've been trying to, of recent, they actually took the government to task, the Mutumisi case.
Yes.
Whereby,
and they won.
Yeah, and they won. So in that space, as limited as they are, the Law Society is trying. But the powers that have it is the Judicial Service Commission.
Yeah.
They are the ones who have the powers. They are the ones who have the appointing rights to appoint judges together with the president.
Yeah.
So I think those questions should be directed to.
I'll get one of them here.
Yes.
All right. Now we want to talk about brand Moloi and Company.
Yes, sir.
I see that you have a certain degree of prominence in social media.
Yes.
But let's look forward. Grab a crystal ball and tell us what you see 5, 10, even 15 years down the line.
I see us dominating this industry. at Moloi and Company, in the sense that we speak the language that the demographic understand. Most of the population nowadays, they don't look at papers anymore. And Moloi and Company is a firm that came, it's a COVID baby. So we are forced to do lawyering in the digital space.
Yeah, but these guys prefer WhatsApp instead of writing emails. What are you going to do about
It's
that?
still digital.
You said everything should be documented.
It's still
I don't know
digital.
whether WhatsApp is recognized in court.
Actually, WhatsApp, you can actually document WhatsApp conversation. You can actually turn that into words and archive it and file it.
Yeah.
The answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no.
Yes, but anyway, I interrupted you, yes.
So, yeah, we see ourselves as a future-focused law firm, and we see ourselves dominating the digital space in Botswana as a law firm. Yes.
To what extent? What can we see? We see how many partners in 10 years' time. We see how many offices across Southern Africa.
We believe in collaboration. Like I said, so far in our little years of experience of existence, we have already made alliances with this international alliance. I see us growing in that space. Locally, we are strategically aligned to other law firms, and I see us as time going on fusing our expertise and working as one, because collaboration is the new winning. The only way that we can challenge the likes of Lerumo, the likes of the old law firms, is for us to come as a united front.
Yeah.
So I see Moloi and Company being part of that in the future.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. This is a part of the show where you get to ask me a question. Do you have a question for me?
Was John right? Did you want a Mercedes-Benz?
Is that the question?
That's the question.
I think I said I wanted a comfortable car.
Oh, okay.
Remember that at the time there was only one branch of the High Court, which was in Lobatse.
Yes.
And everything was happening in Lobatse. And sometimes you had about 20-30 minutes to get there.
Okay.
So if you don't get a car that flies, that
apparently you guys used to fly. Eh?
Yes, I mean sometimes it would literally be 20 to 25 minutes, and the roads were not as broad as they are. And we're talking about a distance of 72 kilometers. So when I realized this from the beginning, I said, whatever I do, the car has to be comfortable and has to be good. Okay. So my first car was a BMW 318i, and it was really car. It was really car. Yeah. But I wasn't extravagant in other areas, but in this area, I felt that it was important to get a very safe, very safe car. And most safe cars are
okay. Yeah. Since I had already asked that question, the question that I really want to ask is, how do you do it, sir, to be able to run so many different companies from different industries? How do you manage to? Well,
I have great teams.
Yes.
So the idea of collaboration, the idea of having managers,
yes,
the idea of being willing to delegate, that is what has helped me. And then the preparedness to fail. Because you know that once you delegate, you have to let go of the idea that everything has to work exactly the way you expect.
Yes.
So we're prepared to deal with some failure, correction, failure, trial and error, especially error. But the point is that we want to fail forward as we move on.
Yes.
I mean, for instance, we've closed 3 of our entities during COVID. We closed the preschool in Kanye. We closed one of our restaurants, and some of our businesses, one new business we had started, we put it on ice.
Okay.
So that preparedness to fail, step back and move forward, and to me, it's a product of personal development, continuous learning, and of course faith.
Okay.
And from what I understood from this interview, you are similarly inclined. It's just that you have limited yourself to the legal area, but look at the vastness of the areas of practice that you've decided to specialize in.
Yes.
That is commendable.
Okay. Yeah. One issue that I'm struggling with right now is, maybe it's because my firm is a pretty new firm, letting go of the control aspect. How did you manage?
I can't answer it during this interview, but I think through personal development, being prepared to delegate, being prepared to let go, try this, try that. Because in some of our divisions, for me to get the right managers, I had to go 3 or 4 terrible managers.
Yeah.
So even in this firm, for me to get a good operations manager, I had to deal with risk take. So there's that. You have to be prepared to take chances, multiple chances, and keep going and keep trying and trying and trying. Because normally things work out in the long run. You look at that camera, sir, as we wrap up our conversation.
Yes, sir.
You talk to that viewer. You leave them with something meaty and something inspirational.
Okay. Your dreams are valid. Never, ever, ever let anyone tell you that your dream, your vision is not valid. As crazy as it may seem, as crazy as it may sound, it's valid. But how do you validate it? You need to work on it. Focus on what you love doing. There is a Japanese concept called ikigai. It's about fusing your passion, what you love, what you enjoy doing, into something that can give you a living. So find your purpose, find what you love doing, fuse that, and trust me, no one or nobody can stop you if you have that. Don't let anyone tell you that your dreams are not valid. Don't let anyone tell you that your visions are not valid. Work on it, empower yourself. Personal development is very important as well. If you are intrigued about anything, learn as much as you can about it. Volunteer, work for free. Be able to be a slave out there. Be able to get your feet dirty as much as you can. But because you know that you get the experience. Get the experience. If you see someone in the industry that you want to be in, have mentors. If you see someone in the industry that you want to be in, that you like, that you really want to see yourself as, approach that person. Don't be scared. Just go knock on his, even if it's Mr. Mogobe, come to his office and knock and say, Mr. Mogobe, what do you do and how do you do it? So don't be afraid, because your dream is your dream and your dream is valid.
Okay, can you tell them how to reach you, all the contacts, physical, social media, everything?
Okay, I'm at Moloi And Company. Our offices are at the office that is in Showgrounds, opposite that tall building. I'm at Office 15. Our website is www.moloiandco.co.bw. On Facebook, our page is Moloi and Co. On Twitter, our handle is Moloi and Co _1. If you want to contact me, my email address is moari@moloiandco.co.bw.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Lastly, tell them why they should watch Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom and why they should subscribe.
Subscribe to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom. Like the words say, it's a nugget of wisdom. You'll be surprised at how much you might learn out there. You don't necessarily, we live in a space whereby you don't necessarily have to wait for Moagi to write a book. You don't have to wait for Mr. Mogobe to write a book so that you can learn about the trials and tribulations, the experiences. That's why we have the likes of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom. You can always get fresh news, fresh insights on different aspects, different industries, on how people have actually made it, or how people are on their journeys, and from that you learn. So hit that like button, subscribe, because that dropping at a rate I don't know, because we are always eager to share our stories and experiences, because we don't want you to make the same mistakes that we made.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. You've been a wonderful guest.
Thank you, Senior Counsel.
You did a great job.
Yes, sir.